We just got a new supervisor from within the company, and everyone who has worked under him in the past has nothing but war stories. So far, he's been decent, but he was being a big ass to us all one day, so one of our safety guys, who have the authority to write up anyone and everyone for safety violations, wrote not wearing shaded safety glasses in a weld cell. Ballsy move by the safety guy, but he's basically irreplaceable to the company, as he's the only one who knows how to operate and repair our aging weld robot systems. I work at a place that manufactures hose. Part of the process of making hose is inserting various types of nozzles into the end, then crimping it tightly to the hose so it does not come off. When we crimp a nozzle to a hose, it leaves a specific pattern that is unique to our crimper. We received a report that one of our customers' hose had failed at the nozzle. That's bad because when a high-pressure hose fails, you want it to explode in the middle rather than at the nozzles. You want it that way because when those nozzles come off with several hundreds or even thousands of CI of water in them, they're like a deadly weapon. So we send someone to their location and ask them to show us the house that failed. After 30 seconds, he says, "This isn't our hose. It's not the same crimp spec or pattern." And then he left. It turns out that company had actually tried to crimp the hose on their own using the wrong spec, which is why it failed at the nozzle. They were going to use it to get free hose out of us. That same company has given us many problems before, and we are considering dropping them as a client.
Our food and beverage department is having a hard time figuring out beverage cost. Bar manager, calculated 23% for July, but corporate management has us at 27%. They reamed our asses. There were a lot of words said and threats made at our most recent department head meeting. The food and beverage director and I started investigating. We met with the property's accountant and went through every invoice and sales report for the month meticulously, and it put us at 22.3% cost. At this point, our unreported costs overstated revenue lost the FTUS PETA. Our food and beverage department is having a hard time figuring out cost. I went through them trends impressively to taping japers. But me and the accountant, overstated revenue is unlikely since Micros, Opera, and M3 are all reporting consistent sales. Loss and theft have been ruled out because a discrepancy this large would have made itself apparent when inventory was done at the end of every month. But corporate management refuses to believe that software malfunction could be giving them these numbers, saying, not verbatim, "Your costs are shit. Fix it." Now everyone on the property thinks corporate has been lying to us and that they've fabricated this story in order to force us to be more profitable for them. Otherwise, why wouldn't they be willing to look at the software as a possibility? Especially since the F&B director, bar manager, and accountant are asking them to double check their numbers. Oh, and one of the bartenders is effing a waitress a person. But corporate management refuses to believe that software malfunction could be giving them these numbers, saying, not verbatim, I work at a church and there's been a really big issue with people giving out the parish library after hours code to non-members. It's free to become a member, but you have to sign up. And somehow word got out to some homeless people who then set up a little motel in one of the back study rooms, and somehow it went unnoticed for about a week until cigarette butts started appearing in trash cans throughout the library building. It's not a very big building, so now there's this huge all-staff email thread going on, people replying all about whose fault it is and how to fix this issue, etc. Edit. The people who set up the motel were not there when the evidence was discovered, so we couldn't talk to them to help them. Our church has a very good relationship with the homeless and low income in our town. Short of running a homeless shelter, we are more than happy to assist them. We have almost daily free meals in our parish center, weekly free food boxes with dry goods and fresh produce, and a weekly poor fund anyone can apply for to help with rental assistance or unforeseen bills. There are only a handful of other organizations in our town that provide services to the homeless, so we try our best to keep up with the demand, but we don't have the budget for a shelter. There's a coup shaping up right now. About 4 years ago, we were purchased by a foreign company that cleaned house at the top ranks and decided to promote a new CEO internally to try and keep some stability. The final two candidates were the VP of Engineering, VP of Sales, and VP of Business Development. The VP of Engineering ended up being promoted and has done an abysmal job running the company. The VP of Business Development ended up working at a competitor after getting passed over for the promotion. The company has not grown as expected since the acquisition, and now the company that owns us is starting to ask him a lot of questions about what's going on since he has executive experience. He's been going behind the CEO's back to give the company that owns us the story of what's really happening, as the CEO is getting desperate to save his own skin. Where this really goes off the rails is that at a trade show several of us were at, a few of us overheard the CEO talking to some competition about jumping ship and joining them. It was completely coincidental. We all went to the same bar after the show without knowing each other were going to be there, and the CEO didn't realize we were the next table over. Someone, and I really don't know who,
There were 5 of us that overheard that conversation, secretly told the company that owns us that the CEO is getting ready to sell out the company and work with competition, despite having a non-compete. The company that owns us doesn't know what to think about it because they don't know who to trust. Things are going to be interesting in the next couple months. I recently found out our receptionist is in a doomsday cult. Over the last 6 months, I've slowly put the pieces together. I knew she was very religious, but something always seemed a bit off. She was always inviting me to Bible studies and offering to teach me things about myself, about the world through the Bible. She told me all this bullshit was predicted in the Bible, like WW2 and 9/11, that kind of stuff. I repeatedly politely informed her I'm an atheist. I grew up in a church, I've read the Bible, and that kind of stuff isn't for me. Then I noticed that in another tab on her browser there is always some sort of news article about impending nuclear war with North Korea or Iran or something like that. So one day I just straight up asked her what church she goes to, just trying to make conversations. She told me the Church of God, the full name is the World Mission Church of God. Now, if you Google this, the first 15 results will be ex-members calling it a cult and that sort of thing. So immediately I knew something was up. I started researching it and everything added up. They recruit members similar to Mormons but more extreme. They approach usually minority college-aged girls on campuses. This makes sense because she is Dominican, and she told me she was shown this at college. This group is also banned from a lot of college campuses around the US, so they come up to these girls when they are at a very vulnerable time in their life, off at college for the first time, they don't know anyone, and they tell them about how the Bible predicted all this bullshit, and then to really get them on the hook, they inform them that God is not only a man, but there is a father God and a mother God. So then they get them to start coming to the church every Saturday all day. The crazy thing is the nearest sect to us is 2 hours away, so she travels 2 hours to church every single week. That's commitment. So they slowly brainwash them. They convince them to give them 10% of their income, which she does, and she is already barely scraping by financially. They require them to dress conservatively, which she does, and they require them to bring new members as often as possible, almost like a pyramid scheme. So this church is relatively new in the US. It started in Korea when a dude named On Sam Hong claimed to be the second incarnation of Jesus Christ, and his wife was the female god. He died around 20 years ago, so according to their beliefs, Christ has now come and gone a second time, so we are in Revelations, which means the world will be ending any day now, and they will go to heaven to hang out with Korean Jesus. At my old job at a supermarket, there was a relationship between a manager and a cashier. Manager, technically front-end coordinator, let's call him Mark, uses the company system to look up a cashier's information to stalk the shit out of her social media. Marcus one level above all the cashiers. We will call this Cashier Girl. So Marcus, a bit of a creepiest, and drops the L-bomb 2 weeks into when they first started talking. Girl gets creeped out and refuses to say it back for a little bit. Girl also tells Mark multiple times she is not looking for anything serious because life and she is leaving for college soon.
Girl specifically says, I do not want a boyfriend, and Mark says, I know. A day later, 2 other managers, one level above girl, say, hey, I heard you are Mark's girlfriend, and she gets teased and is annoyed. Girl is unhappy but continues to see Mark because she doesn't know how to end it without it affecting her job. Mark becomes more possessive and schedules girl every time he is scheduled, calls her every night, and gets mad when girl goes to a party or hangs out in a group with a male. Girl stops talking to Mark and blocks his number. Girl gets Mark out of her mind and starts to date a guy she met.
Girl gets a call from a restricted number, and it's Mark, who is drunk and says he is sorry, but he is unable to surprise visit in a month. Also, he is a father of a kid he originally claimed was a nephew. Girl hangs up, continues the date she is on, and pretends Mark doesn't exist. Next day, Mark gets angry and messages on every social media platform and blocks Girl so she can't respond to the messages. When Girl comes back from college, Girl quits cashier job and gets a better job.